Why is it that in every meeting, every negotiation, every conflict, one person always emerges in control? They don't shout, they don't beg, yet the world bends quietly to their will. Today, you will discover the ancient psychological tricks used by kings, rulers, and cunning operators that allow you to control any situation. The wisdom of Machiavelli will guide you. In every room, in every debate, in every negotiation, there is always a struggle for dominance. Some try to seize control by raising their voice, by filling the air with endless words, by demanding attention with noise. But the one who truly commands power is not the loudest voice. It is the one who holds his silence. Silence is the great weapon, sharper than any sword, heavier than any crown. It unsettles men because silence cannot be measured, it cannot be interrupted, and it cannot be defeated. When you remain silent, you force others to expose themselves. They will grow uncomfortable, restless, desperate to fill the void. And in their desperation, they reveal what they would otherwise guard. Their ambitions spill out. Their fears emerge. Their weakness becomes visible to you, while yours remains hidden. Machiavelli understood that words are currency, but silence is wealth. The man who speaks constantly spends his riches until he is left with nothing. The man who withholds his words is never bankrupt, for he holds the most precious commodity in human interaction: mystery. People fear what they cannot read, and silence cloaks you in enigma. When they do not know what you think, when they cannot predict your judgment, they tread carefully, adjusting their steps to please you. They bend themselves to your silence, because the absence of your words is more powerful than the presence of theirs. Observe carefully the next time you are in the company of others. When a man is confronted with silence, he becomes uneasy. He laughs nervously. He changes the subject. He explains too much. He offers information that no one asked for. Why? Because silence shines a harsh light on the human mind. Most people cannot bear to be left alone with their thoughts. They rush to escape it, and in their escape, they give themselves away. Meanwhile, the one who holds silence observes all, collects every weakness, and maintains absolute control. Silence also has another advantage. It cannot be used against you. Words once spoken can be twisted, misinterpreted, or weaponized by your enemies. Silence, however, offers no weapon to your rivals. It leaves them with nothing to grasp, nothing to exploit. Your silence forces them to project their own fears and assumptions upon you. Some will imagine you are strong. Others will fear that you are plotting. Still others will think you are wise. The beauty is that their imagination works in your favor, while you say nothing at all. And yet, silence must not be mistaken for weakness. It is not withdrawal, and it is not passivity. It is an active strategy, a deliberate act of power. You do not stay silent because you are afraid to speak. You stay silent because you choose to let others destroy themselves with their own words. The wise ruler knows when to speak, but he also knows that saying less creates more impact than endless chatter. A single word, spoken after long silence, carries the weight of 1,000 speeches. Consider how rulers and generals of old used silence as a battlefield tactic. They would withhold their intentions until the last possible moment, leaving their enemies to wonder, to panic, to divide among themselves. The unknown is far more terrifying than the known. Silence magnifies uncertainty, and uncertainty weakens the will of those around you. By saying nothing, you create a void that others scramble to fill, and in filling it, they lose their balance. You remain still while the world trembles. Silence also teaches patience, and patience is the root of power. The impulsive man cannot control a situation, for he reacts too quickly, spilling his strength in sudden bursts. The silent man waits. He listens. He observes. He lets the currents of events reveal themselves before he makes his move. By the time he finally speaks, every other player has already shown his hand, leaving him free to decide the outcome. In silence, you do not just survive. You prepare. You collect the threads of the game and hold them tightly until the right moment arrives to pull them. But silence, though powerful, is incomplete without its companion, the art of reflection. For silence alone only unsettles. To control, you must use what silence reveals. This is where the true mastery begins, mirroring the desires of others. Once you have gathered their secrets through your quiet observation, once they have laid bare their ambitions and fears in their restless need to speak, you then hold the key to influence. You become the reflection of what they long for, and in that reflection, they believe they see themselves, when in truth, they see only what you allow them to see. When silence has done its work, when you have gathered the truths that men spill in their desperation to be heard, the next step is not to confront them, not to oppose them, but to reflect them. The greatest power you can hold over a man is to become the mirror of his desires. Every individual carries within him an unspoken dream, an ambition, or a hunger that rules him far more than reason ever could. The clever ruler, the manipulator of human nature, learns to uncover these hidden longings and reflect them back in such a way that the man believes he has found an ally, when in reality, he has only bound himself to your will. This is no mere flattery, for flattery is shallow and quickly exposed. Mirroring is deeper, more subtle, and infinitely more dangerous. To flatter is to tell a man what he already knows about himself. To mirror is to reveal to him what he secretly hopes to be true. When you mirror his ambition, he feels understood. When you echo his fear, he feels protected. When you reflect on his vanity, he feels admired. And when a man feels that his inner world has been recognized, he will follow without resistance. He will see you not as an opponent, not even as an equal, but as the extension of his own soul. The art of mirroring requires keen observation, patience, and restraint. You must first listen, not just to words but to tone, gesture, hesitation. A man reveals his desires not in what he declares but in what he emphasizes, what he repeats, and what he avoids. He betrays himself in the subjects he returns to, in the images that light his eyes, in the fears he cannot fully mask. Once you perceive this hidden truth, you position yourself as its reflection. You speak his language, you echo his values, you confirm his beliefs. Soon he begins to believe that you are the one person who truly understands him, that you are his natural ally, perhaps even his destined companion in purpose. But here lies the cunning beauty of this method. You do not become his ally, you become his captor. For in mirroring his desires, you make him dependent on you. He looks into you and sees his own image staring back, and who can resist loving the reflection of themselves? A man will abandon reason, loyalty, and even morality for the one who appears to embody his most cherished vision of life. Thus, control is not forced upon him, it is welcomed by him. He does not resist you, because he believes you are him. This strategy is as ancient as power itself. Monarchs have long mirrored the faith of their subjects to gain devotion. Leaders mirror the anger of the people to ignite loyalty. Lovers mirror the passion of their partners to deepen attachment. The principle is the same: men do not follow reality. They follow the reflection of their desires. If you wish to command them, you must become the mirror that shows them what they long to see. Yet this art demands caution, for a mirror that reflects too perfectly risks exposure. If you agree with every word, if you echo every gesture, suspicion may arise. The true master allows slight differences, enough to make the reflection appear natural, enough to give the illusion of independence. A perfect mirror is unnatural, an imperfect one convinces. The goal is not to deceive blatantly, but to blend so smoothly with their longing that they never realize the trick. They must feel that they have found in you not a reflection, but a companion of destiny. And what then, when you have mirrored their desires? You will discover the invisible chains of obligation tightening around them. They will trust you more than they trust themselves, for you have validated the secret voice inside them. They will reveal more, confide more, surrender more, until you possess not only their loyalty but their very identity. In their eyes, you are not merely a figure of authority. You are the embodiment of their inner dream, and a man will sacrifice everything for the preservation of his dream. But the cunning mind must always remember, once you have mirrored desires and earned obedience, the time comes to bind that obedience in chains that cannot be easily broken. For reflection alone creates loyalty, but loyalty is fragile unless secured. To ensure their devotion endures, you must go beyond mirroring. You must create debts, obligations that linger in the soul. This is where the true weight of power is forged. not only in the reflection of desire, but in the careful use of generosity that makes men forever indebted to you. Once a man has been captured through the silent observation of his weaknesses and the mirroring of his desires, the next step is to bind him with threads he cannot cut. This is where the weapon of calculated kindness enters. Many mistake kindness for weakness, but in the hands of a strategist, kindness becomes a chain. True power is not in endless giving, but in the art of selective generosity. Gestures so precise and so timely that they plant a debt deep inside the soul of the receiver, a debt that cannot easily be repaid. Kindness in excess is wasted. When it flows too freely, it loses value like water spilling over the earth. Men grow entitled to it, and soon, what was once seen as generosity becomes expected, even demanded. This is the mistake of the naïve vef, to think that goodness alone breeds loyalty. It does not. The wise ruler knows that kindness must be measured, rare, and deliberate, so that it strikes the recipient like a sudden light in darkness. When a man receives such kindness at the precise moment he most needs it, gratitude does not fade. It imprints itself on his memory, shaping his future actions. This is not the kindness of the heart, it is the kindness of calculation. Imagine a man struggling in silence, burdened by fear of failure. At the right moment, a word of reassurance, a small act of support, a gesture of understanding, binds him to you more than gold or punishment ever could. He will not forget that you stepped in when others looked away. He will feel indebted, even if you never demand repayment. His conscience will weigh heavy, and he will carry that invisible chain with him, adjusting his actions, his choices, his loyalty in your favor. Calculated kindness also serves another function. It disguises power. A ruler who shows only ruthlessness is feared, but fear alone eventually breeds resistance. Kindness softens fear, making it tolerable, even welcome. When power is cloaked in moments of mercy, subjects interpret domination as care and control as protection. They believe the ruler is not only strong, but benevolent, and what man resists a master, he sees as both powerful and merciful. This dual image creates the strongest form of loyalty born not just of necessity, but of admiration. But one must never confuse calculated kindness with uncontrolled generosity. To give freely to all is to diminish yourself. Every gift must be placed with purpose. Every act of mercy must serve a greater strategy. Sometimes a ruler must deny kindness deliberately, for scarcity increases value. The man who receives nothing begins to hunger, and hunger creates dependency. Then, when kindness finally comes, it arrives as salvation, binding him more tightly than if it had been given from the start. The greatest kindness is not the one repeated daily, but the one delivered rarely, when its absence has already been felt. Consider the soldier rewarded with honor after long service. Consider the servant forgiven for a single mistake at the very moment he fears punishment most. Consider the rival shown mercy after defeat, a mercy that humiliates him more than execution could. In each case, kindness is not weakness. It is domination disguised as benevolence. The soldier fights harder, the servant obeys more carefully, the rival remains bound in humiliation. The gesture was small, but the debt is lifelong. Kindness, when calculated, also gives you a shield. Your enemies will accuse you of cruelty, of ambition, of deceit. But if you can point to moments of generosity, acts of mercy, gestures of humanity, you disarm their accusations. People remember what they want to remember, and they are eager to believe in the goodness of those who rule them. Your rare kindness becomes legend, retold and magnified, while your cruelty is excused as necessity. In this way, power is preserved, not only through fear, but through the illusion of care. And yet, even calculated kindness must evolve. For binding men with debt is only the beginning. Once you hold them in obligation, the next level of mastery is to shape how they see you altogether. A man indebted may follow you, but a man convinced of your image will defend you. It is not enough to bind with chains of gratitude. You must also control the very perception of who you are. To dominate perception is to dominate reality. For men act not according to truth, but according to what they believe. The greatest mistake of the common man is to believe that reality rules the world. He thinks that facts, truth, and the actual state of things decide the course of events. But the cunning mind, The Machiavellian mind knows this is false. It is not reality that governs men. It is perception. What people see, what they believe, what they imagine, has more influence over their actions than any truth ever could. Control reality, and you control little. Control perception, and you control everything. Consider how men judge strength. Few know the actual resources, the hidden weaknesses, or the true capacity of a ruler. They see the display, armies parading, banners raised, words spoken with confidence, and they believe this image is true. Appear strong, and men will assume you are strong, even when cracks lie hidden behind the walls. Appear merciful, and they will call you just, even if every act of kindness is carefully calculated. Appear wise, and they will follow your counsel, even if your wisdom is nothing but the careful echoing of their desires. The appearance of power is often more valuable than power itself. Men are not seekers of truth, they are seekers of certainty. They do not ask whether what they see is real. They only ask whether it comforts them, whether it terrifies them, whether it gives them a sense of direction. The wise ruler provides this certainty by shaping appearances. He hides weakness, he magnifies strength, he cloaks ambition in morality. He plays not with facts, but with images, symbols, and gestures. And because men are more persuaded by what they see than by what they reason, he wins obedience without ever revealing the truth. Reality is heavy, complex, and often disappointing. Perception is light, simple, and powerful. A man may be poor, yet if he appears wealthy, doors open. A ruler may be vulnerable, yet if he appears invincible, enemies hesitate. A leader may be cruel, yet if he appears benevolent, followers love him. Men act not on what is, but on what seems to be. And when perception is mastered, reality bends to follow it. But perception must be controlled carefully. Too much illusion, and it collapses. A ruler who claims greatness but cannot support it with some visible proof is quickly exposed. The art lies in balance, giving just enough truth to anchor the illusion, while surrounding it with enough theater to magnify it beyond reality. Show strength with one decisive act, then let perception amplify it into legend. Perform mercy once, then let stories of it spread like wildfire. You do not need to be what you appear to be. You only need to provide enough evidence for others to believe it on your behalf. They will do the rest, exaggerating your image until it towers over them. Perception also shields you from scrutiny. When people see you as noble, they excuse your faults. When they see you as strong, they overlook your mistakes. When they see you as merciful, they forgive your cruelty. They interpret everything you do through the lens of the image you have crafted. Control perception once, and it becomes a prison for their judgment. They cannot escape it. Even when truth appears, they dismiss it, because they are too invested in the illusion you created. Men cling to perception more tightly than reality, for it gives them comfort, and no man easily abandons his comfort. And yet, to control perception fully, you must understand one final truth. It is not enough to create appearances. You must also define the very terms by which appearances are judged. For what is strength? What is justice? What is wisdom? These are not absolute realities. They are frames set by those who control the narrative. The one who defines the frame determines what others see, even before they see it. If you decide what counts as victory, then every outcome can be painted as your triumph. If you decide what mercy looks like, then even your punishments appear as kindness. The battle is won not in reality, but in framing perception itself. When perception has been shaped, when men already believe what you want them to believe, there still remains a higher level of control, the art of setting the frame. This is the stage at which you are no longer merely influencing how others see you. You are dictating the very lens through which they see the entire situation. Frames are invisible boundaries, and whoever defines them already controls the outcome before the contest even begins. Consider a dispute between two men. The one who rushes to prove his argument may seem confident, but in truth, he is already playing within the frame set by the other. He is trapped in a debate he did not choose, on terms he did not design. The superior strategist, however, does not argue within another's frame. He decides the language, the definitions, the limits of the battlefield. By doing so, he narrows the options of his opponent, forcing him to fight in a space where defeat is inevitable. Setting the frame is not about persuasion. It is about control of the conditions under which persuasion even matters. This principle extends far beyond words. Frames dictate loyalty, morality, even perception of victory itself. If you define what loyalty means, then betrayal can be painted as loyalty to a higher purpose. If you define what justice means, then even cruelty can appear as fairness. If you define what strength looks like, then even hesitation can appear as wisdom. By shaping the frame, you control not only your own image, but the judgment of every action taken within it. Men no longer see with their own eyes, they see with the eyes you have given them. The key to setting frames is subtlety. You must never announce, "These are the rules." Instead, you present them as natural, unquestionable truths. A ruler who sets the frame of order versus chaos convinces his subjects that obedience to him is the only alternative to ruin. A rival who sets the frame of honor versus dishonor forces his enemies to either join him or face public disgrace. Frames operate silently, invisibly, but with immense force. The moment others accept your frame, they have already surrendered their freedom of choice. For every option they see leads back to you. Men crave certainty, and frames provide it. The world is vast, chaotic, and confusing. But when you set the frame, you reduce it to something simple, something manageable, something they can understand. People would rather believe a convenient frame than wrestle with an inconvenient reality. And so they cling to your definitions, defend your narrative, and even attack those who challenge it, not realizing they are protecting chains you wrapped around them. Frames also allow you to conceal weakness. Imagine a ruler facing financial ruin. If he frames the crisis as temporary sacrifice for the glory of the future, his people endure suffering with pride rather than resentment. If an army suffers defeat, but the leader frames it as a lesson to sharpen our courage for the ultimate victory, the soldiers march again with renewed spirit. The reality of weakness vanishes within the frame of meaning you provide. The people do not ask whether the frame is true. They ask only whether it gives them a sense of purpose. And as long as it does, they will fight for it, kill for it, and die for it. But the most powerful frames are not imposed from above. They are planted subtly, like seeds, and allowed to grow until the people themselves believe they created them. When a man believes the frame is his own idea, his loyalty is unbreakable. He will defend it against all challengers, never realizing he is defending your strategy. This is the ultimate mastery, when men carry your chains willingly, mistaking them for their own crown. And yet, even the art of framing is not the final step. For once you have mastered silence, mirrored desires, forged debts through kindness, controlled perception, and set the frame, the game itself begins to shift. You see that these are not isolated tricks, but parts of a greater design. Each one feeds the other, each one strengthens the next, until together they form an unbreakable system of power. The silent man gathers secrets, the mirror binds loyalty, the kindness secures debt, the illusion shapes belief, and the frame defines the battlefield. At this point, control is no longer a matter of chance. It becomes inevitable, a natural consequence of the structure you have built, a structure so complete that men cannot even imagine freedom outside of it. Know you see that control is never won by force alone. It is not the loud voice, nor the sharp sword, nor the rigid law that governs men. It is psychology, wielded with precision. Silence unsettles and exposes. Mirroring desires seduces and binds. Calculated kindness forges debts that weigh heavier than chains. Perception bends reality itself, and framing defines the very game others must play. Together, these 5 weapons form the true arsenal of power, the arsenal Machiavelli himself understood, that men are ruled not by truth, but by illusion, by fear, by hope, and by the unseen hand of the one who dares to master them. Learn these arts, and you will never walk into a room uncertain again, for the room will already belong to you.